What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and I want to look at something Microsoft have done over the course of the last couple of years, specifically when it comes to the Xbox One. And it's, I suppose we could call it accessories to an extent, but it's a practice that has kind of gone on for a while now, ever since Sega tried it way back in the day and completely fucked up their company. But it's the announcement, or rather the low key non announcement of discontinuation of stuff. So, for the Sega comparison, is if you have products and you say, hey people, buy these products, these are our future. And then they don't do exceptionally well, or they're a bit lackluster, they whatever. And then, 6 months later, the same company comes out and says, okay, we know you all bought this product. It's not our future like we said it is. So here, buy this product instead. And then the same thing. And then the same thing. And then Sega stopped making hardware. So you get the point, and you get what I'm coming from. And it makes sense. You don't want consumers to lose confidence. You don't want to have it's generally a negative image for your company to be discontinuing products and services and all this other stuff that you've been hyping up and saying are the next big thing and insisting that they be used and all as well. Now, most people are going to assume I mean Xbox Kinect. To an extent, I mean Xbox Kinect, but it's not what I want to talk about specifically in this video. Because we all know, yes, the Kinect on the 360 came out and it did gangbusters. It completely, I think it set like a world record for the fastest or highest selling piece of launch technology in existence, or something along the lines of that, when it first came out. God knows how that's probably changed since then. And then Microsoft obviously wanted to double down on it. When the Xbox One was coming out, they made it a key and integral part of a feature, whatever, of the Xbox One experience, as they called it. Much to many people's dismay and disappointment. And of course, that led to the additional cost of Kinect being factored in, the hardware being factored in, and, well, to cut costs, the underpoweredness of the Xbox One is basically thanks to Kinect. And at first, they tried to go big and go ham on Kinect when the Xbox One came out, and it pretty much sharply fell off. I'm going to give one quick example before I move on to what I actually want to talk about in this video. And I remember when I got my Xbox One, I got it on launch day, or launch midnight, whatever you want to call it, when it came out. And I set up, obviously back then you could only get it with Kinect. I set it up, I kept it set up for about a week, and that's where the problem starts. Because I left Kinect enabled, and what happened was, when you're playing Dead Rising 3, the only, well, I would say the only game I had on my Xbox One, it came with Forza, but I didn't play Forza. But I bought Dead Rising 3 and I was playing that, and if you have Kinect enabled, just to shoehorn in a bit of use for Kinect, if you get grabbed by a zombie, instead of a button prompt coming up, you shake the controller. And the problem is, there's no actual motion controls. Well, I say this as problem because realistically it's not a problem that there's no motion controls in it. But for this example, because there's no motion controls in the Xbox One controller, the Kinect has to recognize your controller being shaken and being moved. Anyway, what happens is I had almost full maxed out health, something like, I don't know, 8, 9, maybe 10 blocks. It's been so long. And yeah, Kinect wouldn't pick up my input. And I died. And to this day, it's the only time I've only ever died once in Dead Rising 3. Ever. And it was because of that individual death. And since then, I turned off my Kinect. After that happened, I saved the game. I quit the game. I went into the dashboard, the settings. I turned off Kinect, and I've never turned it back on since. Exactly, just enough said. And as time went on, Microsoft, they didn't officially discontinue Kinect. They started selling Xbox without Kinect. They wouldn't force developers to use it. They would free up extra development resources and, the CPU and all that for companies to use it if they didn't want to use Kinect. And they just haven't officially discontinued Disconnect. Wow, I talked about Kinect way more than I actually wanted to. And now let's move on to the actual thing that I want to talk about when I came up with this video. And that's another thing that towards the end of the 360 era, it got kind of big, and it got kind of interesting to the point where it didn't really blow us away, but it was more curious to see what they'd do with it when the next generation, aka the Xbox One, came around. That feature is Xbox One Smartglass. Now, there's a reason why I use this one as an example. Let's go back and look what Xbox Smartglass was basically designed to. Remember when every game, every console, every whatever had to have an app? They had to have their own separate, dedicated app. Assassin's Creed had it, Watch Dogs had it, fucking every game had an app. It was ridiculous. It was so absolutely, get it? Absolutely instead of absolutely. And yeah, I know, terrible puns. It was just terrible. It was so annoying that every game had its own app. Most of the time, I didn't even bother downloading them. The only exception that I can remember off the top of my head that I actually did download and use was the Xbox One Smartglass app. For the simple reason is the Xbox One version of it was more of a general thing. It was like the console with a bunch of features as well as Smartglass built into it. So I had that. I downloaded that. Now, why do I think that's important? Well, usually the amount of content, or the additional features and whatever you want to call it of the Smartglass was usually negligible at best. Now, I have a decent amount of experience with Xbox One Smartglass to an extent. For the simple reason is when I was playing Dead Rising 3 when it first came out, I used the Smartglass app every time I played. Absolutely every time. I had it there sitting on my phone beside me, good to go. Now the problem is, if I remember correctly, my phone at the time was a piece of shit. I think I was still using my Samsung Galaxy S2 back then, 2013, and it was a bit dodgy. For the simple reason is, there was 3 different types of volume levels. There was your standard ringing volume, there was your media volume, which would be stuff like music playback, YouTube volume, and then you had apps and stuff like that as well. Now, most of the time, because, well, back in 2013, the whole, well, whatever we call it, phone media side wasn't really huge. I usually had the app volume usually at the bottom because I didn't use it most of the time, and whenever I would turn on some sort of app that would have it, I just didn't want to hear the music or whatever. So whatever way my phone, now this was obviously phone specific because my friends had different phones and they didn't have these issues, was that if you booted up the app with the volume on 0, even if you increase the volume during the app, it wouldn't actually increase it. So that was really annoying. That actually, the first couple of times I actually used it, I was wondering, like, wow, this app is absolute shit. It's doing stuff in game, but there's no volume. Turns out we got it all fixed anyway. But the point is that, yeah, while the content and all that it added was very negligible, it was basically just little side quests here or there. You'd be going now, it's like, oh, go here and clear this place, or, you know, get here and bring this item and unlock some extra drone strikes and stuff like that. And okay, that was it. And a couple of other games used Smartglass style apps over the next couple of years, as well as a couple of games fucking every game having their own app. But then suddenly it just dropped off and just completely disappeared. And while Microsoft haven't officially killed Smartglass, they never promote it. It's just gone low key, and every time anything to do with new developers and new whatever comes up, it's never mentioned. And if you look at back at when it was first talked about, when it was announced and when it was huge and when they were hyping it up, you can see the actual decline of how much they'd talk about it, how much emphasis they'd put on it, and how much they'd use it as a feature and selling point. And eventually it would just drop slower and slower, slower and lower, lower and lower, and boom. Eventually they just didn't talk about it. Now, as far as I know, it's still technically available. I keep telling myself I'm going to boot up Dead Rising 3 and play that again, and then maybe possibly test that out and see if it's there. Actually, I might do that tonight. But the point is, companies make, I know all the companies, they try so much. They want to try find the next big thing. They want to try basically do what the Wii did with motion controls. And yes, thankfully apps are not the case, and yes, they, for the majority of the games, have gone away and are staying gone, because thank fucking God. But I am curious to see what the next big thing, their next version of, we won't call it Kinect, because it basically went Kinect, then Smartglass, and then, I don't know, who knows what. Who knows? It could be Xbox One X is their next thing. We'll see how it goes, because I'm curious to see what way this is going to progress, and yeah, probably fail at the same time. Because usually, if something is big and takes off, companies have already thought about it by now, but all these extra little companion apps and, side everything's just doesn't really work. If something takes your attention away from the game that you're playing and the experience of all that, it's basically just a failure right there and then. If it's taking you away from the game you're playing, no, it just doesn't happen. And I'm curious to see if Smartglass actually still works with Dead Rising 3, or if they've just removed it completely or from either the app or patched from the game, or, well, whatever it is. I'm just curious to see if that's still going. But anyway, let me know in the comment section below what you think happened along the way with Xbox Smartglass, as well as let me know any of your actual experience with it as well. And just for the sake of it, let me know your experience with any third-party games that had their own individual apps, like, I don't know, Watch Dogs or Metal Gear Solid 5, or I think, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5 used it as well, I think. But just any of those in general. Let me know your experience with all of those, where you think apps in general went wrong, because as I mentioned, I think the fact that they're taking you away from the game you're playing just completely killed it, and what they added was never really quality enough. But let me know all of that anyway, and what you think could possibly be the next big thing that companies may or may not be looking into and trying and hoping to come out with. Let me know all of that in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.